ubi venit plenitudo temporis, when the fullness of time had come. Whenever I read these words, I'm taken back to the years in France, for at the office of Prime, these were the words of the short chapter of the Office of Our Lady, and it was said in conjunction with the first hour of light, and each day was an unopened parcel. What would it contain? And when in a monastery little happens, little things mean a lot. One has a countdown before one's brother or one's father and mother come to see one once in a blue moon. And I remember when it came to the morning that my brother came one time, actually the first person of the whole family that I saw after about 2 years, that verse came out of the page. The day has come and I'll see my brother again. Time passes. By now, that is way back in the archives of memory, a long time ago. And time, old Father Time, Chronos, walks on triumphantly. We come and go, and the clock ticks on and on and on. At the end of a year, one looks back and one looks forward. One sees all the unexpected things that happened in the course of a year. Who would have thought some of the things that happened have happened out of the blue? One big one, personally, was to see the decision of my brethren to leave the monastery and go to France, to take up another house. And other things too, big and small, which have become part of history. What will tomorrow, and therefore next year, contain? I would recommend this to you in this week of pausing. Stop at the milestone. In days of old, milestones used to be dotted around the English countryside. They were milestones, and they would say how many miles to London. But there are also milestones in our lives. This one day was sent to me when I was enclosed by my mother in France. It's since lost the bottom half. You can't see it, but I'll tell you what it is. She was sorting out old things and came across, at the very bottom of a hold-all, you know, those big bags that a woman has when going shopping in days of old, an old leather thing which is still going strong. And she would talk about things coming out of it like out of Mary Poppins. But this came out of the bottom of it, an archive of the distant past. It's just a pay sheet at the till, Macross Limited, and it's from, presumably, the Cardiff shop, Working Street. It's got the price at the top, 10 shillings, those are the days. It's got served by and a glorious squiggle. It's got the date, the 24th of the 6th, 54, and it's got what it is. It's one harness. Well, a harness in those days was given to a child, rather as you would to a dog. And Ma'am, in her letter, said in Welsh, "I remember buying this for you to keep you still." And I remember actually having that harness around me. Ma'am would hold on to it unless I ran too far away at the bus stop or whatever. It's still there, reminding one that at one point in time, that instant was. It was a moment in time. Are there any moments that have an impact on other moments? Well, I think there are. Sometimes a girl might find that hints are coming in her direction from a boy. They might be more or less overt. Well, one can say that she has the power of a queen to follow that through or to refuse and rebuff. The lifeline of two families will depend on her will, yes or no. A young man might one day be in adoration before the tabernacle or the monstrance and be aware that something is tugging. Likewise, that young man has power over eternity, for if that tug were a hint, you could be my priest. The will, saying yes or no, will ultimately, if followed through, have a result which will not change for all eternity. And the seal of the sacred priesthood will be singed into the depths of his soul forever and ever, again in one point in time. But again, there could be moments between the first and the second moment in which all time could hang in the balance. One time in Rome, a cryptic message came to me from the English college. My friend, who was due for the diaconate, a Welsh-speaking friend, said he was pulling back. He wanted to become a Benedictine monk. And I thought to myself, this sounds spooky. And indeed, the end product was spooky. He was a Benedictine for 4 years in Austria, but then something went wrong, and he wasn't advised sufficiently strongly perhaps, but he came out and all was gone. There were moments in time which could have gone otherwise and had eternal results. But there is another angle. Looking back over the past year, I was examining one specific problem. It's where time was going. Not necessarily, in this case, huge decisions, but a lot of little ones having a global effect. I had noticed that time, more than before, was going into something new. And I will put this before you, because it might concern you too. It's this. That ample space of emptiness was being frittered away and eroded, chipped away bit by bit by something new. And I only realized recently the danger of it. We don't realize how much attention is being drawn into the virtual. I'll give you an example. The more conscientious we are, the more we like to get things right. Now, we can do a job and get it finished, or we can get it right and even more right, and actually perfectly right. In the second case, there might be an hour's difference in the time involved. G.K. Chesterton once said, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing badly. In his usual witty way, he had a profound truth to convey. It doesn't have to be absolutely 101% perfect before we finish with it. It's the fault of perfectionism. It's a disease. We have to get it perfect. Well, in so doing, something is going far from perfect in the proportion of time going to what has to be done and what actually really matters. It's hugely different if we have an hour before the Lord regularly and indeed on a daily basis. Why? Because at least on that daily basis we will come back to base and we'll see things as they are, and He will have control over all the rest. If that is not there, it's like the relationship between a boy and a girl and eventually a husband and a wife, which ceases to be intimate. The eyeball to eyeball is not there. Other things become more interesting. And indeed, in the service of the Lord can be more interesting than the Lord. And we can miss in our time on earth the one thing that really mattered, while officially performing very well. This week, I'm just finishing off the last pages of this year's diary. This next week is sort of free still, although there is the first Friday coming up now. I think that'll have to be in the Hermitage at 11 o'clock, not here, because Father Michael has a celebration for the beginning of the year. So just bear that in mind. There will be a first Friday Mass, but because it's the first of the year, it'll have to be in the Hermitage at 11 o'clock, not here. But all that to say, that this year by now is completely filled up with events once lived. Just this week, I opened this new diary, completely virgin, as you see, not a thing in it yet. And it took me back to the time when in the monastery I had to, on a daily basis, write the chronicle for the community. What was going to go into this chronicle? What was newsworthy? What was an event? Before this year happens, my friends, ask yourself, what do you want to have written on your page? I mean your book of life. Do you want hours and hours and hours of the virtual, or do you want strong moments of intimacy with your Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ in the tabernacle and with our Blessed Lady in the rosary and with the saints in the books that you might have at your disposition? Because, my friends, time is only coming once, and when it comes to the totting up operation at the end, what's on the copybook matters, and what's gone into the virtual, in the virtual remains. What's gone into God with merit remains, and it makes a difference for ourselves and those that we're saving or not saving with the use of the same time that only comes once. So let's pause, my friends, in this next week and ask ourselves, what must I change and adjust if I don't want to get into that rut of frittering away the glorious and unique gift of the irreversible present moment?
Cronaca, the monastery chronicle, daily responsibility at Sant'Antimo in Italy. We trace the line of moments on a page that will to yellow turn and leave behind all trace but this of them that came of age and yielded unto seconds. This, the mind and minding well of riddles that hold all the meaning of a day. This, little brain, of memory marked and coded, this faint call of nothings ever wrought will call again, 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 when we have gone. But none will turn to listen to a sound of matter made of naught. For we have done today as yesterday, as we were bound, and morrows have a pattern that we know, and there is little here the truth to show. We shall bear you to all these your brethren. We shall bring you along every path. Be with us, Lord, walk at our side. The night nevermore shall come down. Walk with us now, and here abide, for the world that we tread is your own.
Sicut erat in principio et nunc